Am I the a-hole for refusing to have anything to do with my mother after she abandoned me for 10 years, then came back and spitefully said my dad wasn't my dad after letting him raise me solo? My 20-year-old parents were young when they dated and my mother got pregnant with me. They broke up during the pregnancy and my mother called my dad to the hospital. She left me with him and said she wasn't interested in parenting, and since he was, he could do it. She did nothing for me for the next 10 years. There was no contact, no child support, and yes, my dad pursued it. Nothing. My dad did it all. He was on his own and committed to raising me. There were times I asked him about my mother, and he tried to stay neutral with a slightly positive leaning on her, just because he didn't want me to hate myself for being half her. He wanted to nurture confidence and security in me. And as much as I hate her today, I appreciate him doing it, because I was sort of fragile as a kid emotionally, and I think the insecurity and self-loathing would have been bad if I had known just how awful she was. A few weeks after I turned 10, my mother showed up and acted like she could just start playing supermom. She told Dad she wanted to take me and raise me now and didn't want to fight over it. She told me I was going to move in with her, but I fought back and said I wanted to stay with Dad and that she was a stranger. Then when she wasn't getting her way, she told us Dad wasn't my real dad anyway, and I was someone else's bio kid, so I didn't belong with him. She said it out of pure spite, but also because she thought Dad would dump me on the spot. Until we got the DNA test, I was in pieces over that. I felt guilty because Dad raised me not knowing, and I didn't want to have a different dad or lose him. He spent ages reassuring me he would be my dad no matter what, that I was his son no matter what, and that he loved me. But I was terrified someone would come between us. I was sure my mother would find the actual guy and he'd take me away, or they both would. But the DNA test proved I was Dad's kid. He paid for it privately because he wanted me to be comforted, and deep down he believed I was his, even though he was sick at the thought that my mother might be telling the truth. We don't know if she had doubts about who my father was, but she was wrong. Dad was 100% my dad. She disappeared again after the DNA results. She was pissed. She acted like I was supposed to jump into her arms and run away with her, even though she was a stranger, and even the way she talked to me showed she would have been a crappy mother. It was only 2.5 months ago that she showed up again. She moved to town with her husband and his 2 little kids. They stopped by mine and Dad's house to introduce themselves. They said his kid's mom had died, and my mother was going to be their mom now, and that we'd be siblings and should be a family. I told them I wanted nothing to do with her or any of them. I told her that after what she did, she had the audacity to come back and act like I'd ever want anything to do with her. She argued that it was 10 years ago and she's grown. I said she could F off and die in a hole because she was a spiteful bitch and unworthy of being called a mom. Dad told them they needed to leave. Her husband was willing to go because he didn't like our attitude, but she acted offended and lingered. She's approached me a few times since, and I've ignored her completely. She told me I should hear her out and give her a chance. Her husband was there one of those times and he said crap about me, calling me a monster for the F off and die in a hole comment because I supposedly want his kids to lose 2 mothers and be motherless twice before they're 5. I ignored them, but the comments still bother me a little. I want to scream that they should move away if they don't like it, but I know I can't make them leave. And I know I haven't heard her side. I don't want to. I don't want a relationship or anything to do with her ever. But does that make me the a-hole? And you know, I'm the same age my parents were when I was born. I feel too young for kids, but I would never screw my kid over the way she did me. She was 30 when she did that. Like WTF. She wasn't a kid anymore. And she didn't give a crap about what it did to me. She didn't care about what it did to Dad, even though he was on his own with me and had 0 support from her. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Protect your peace. There's nothing she could say that would justify her abandonment. The abandonment isn't her worst crime anymore. She outdid that when she tried turning my world upside down when I was 10. Blood makes relatives, but actions make a family, and her actions suck. Not only did she abandon you, she then throws the zinger that he's not your real dad to a 10-year-old. How cruel, not the a-hole. I know. If she can be that cruel to a 10-year-old, how cruel would she be now that I'm an adult? How cruel would be to my eventual future kids? Her worst action was no longer abandoning me after the paternity nonsense she threw at us. Not the a-hole. Next time she tries to talk to you, just completely blank her and walk away. She does not deserve any of your time. That's what I'm already doing. I don't look at or acknowledge her. I keep walking, and I don't slow down until I can no longer hear her. There was a time I even turned around and went back the way I came, just to get away from her easier. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend therapy sessions with my sister, who is doing an inpatient psych stay? This is really bothering me. My home life's more toxic than before now. So I, 16 male, need advice and an honest answer on whether I'm the a-hole. I have one sister, 17 female, who was always a problem kid. When we were little, she was violent without remorse. She didn't discriminate against any one person in particular. You just had to be close enough for her to hurt you in some way. I was a frequent target, and so was a kid in her class who was always seated next to her by teachers. She got into trouble at school for it all the time, and CPS got involved twice before she was 10. I remember being interviewed by someone from CPS and showing them the bruises, cuts, and other injuries I still had. My parents were ordered to get her evaluated and sent to therapy. The second time, a whole new evaluation was ordered, but I don't think she ever got a diagnosis back then. They tried, sure, but I don't ever remember hearing them talk about an actual diagnosis. But I could have been kept out of it too. They were also told to get me a lock for my door and to never leave us alone. At that point, I was allowed to stay at friends' houses more, and I sometimes spent several overnights at my best friend's house for my safety and because they were willing to give me a real break from her. My sister got expelled from school twice, once in 2018 and again in 2021. After she was expelled the second time, she hurt me really badly. I was in the hospital for a few days getting scans on my head because of her, and she went for her first inpatient stay. She got home a week after I did, and because my parents hadn't gotten her into a new school yet, I was forced to be around her 24/7 until I was considered safe to go back to school. In that time, while we were both home from school, she tried to choke me out and tried to hurt my head again. Her behavior got even worse, and she was running away, getting arrested, and all kinds of things. I spent an entire month living with my best friend's family because of stuff at home and my sister's threats to unalive me. Then in April this year, she was sent on an inpatient psych stay for an extended period. I forget how my parents were able to pull it, but I think CPS and some charity got her in under some financial aid so they could keep her there longer. They couldn't afford it with insurance otherwise. Because of this, she finally got diagnosed, and a few things were mentioned, but antisocial personality disorder was one my parents talked about. In July, her therapist started to recommend therapy sessions with each of us. My parents went, but I refused. I told them I didn't want therapy with her and I don't care about a relationship with her or helping her recover. I said I care more about not being assaulted anymore. They said therapy would help with that and is the only way for her to recover enough to stop. But I know that even though she apologizes in sessions, she also abuses our parents verbally in them and says really awful things. She told them she hates them for having me because she wishes she were an only child. She has even told them how she has wanted to unalive me for years and basically dissect me like a frog in school. I don't want to sit there and listen to her say that stuff. My parents didn't want to tell me about it either, but I can see in their faces how disturbed they are every time they get home from a session. My parents are now totally mad at me for refusing to go to the therapy sessions, and they try so hard to change my mind. They even try putting my sister's success or failure onto me, and they say I should be evaluated for saying I don't care about her getting better. They said I'm supposed to be understanding because she's sick, and she's getting the help to be better. But I don't think she wants to be if she's saying stuff like that. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You're prioritizing your own safety and mental health, which is completely reasonable. You aren't responsible for fixing or tolerating your sister's abuse, and therapy shouldn't come at the cost of your well-being. I don't think my well-being is cared about as much as hers. Can your friend's parents contact CPS and maybe try to organize being a permanent guardian for you? It is actually insane that you keep being put back in a house with her after all of her attempts to kill you. I get your parents are clearly at their limit trying to deal with her, but they are completely and utterly failing you consistently and putting you in countless dangerous situations. This is so extremely serious, and you need to be protected. I don't know. I can ask them, but it might be an issue that they're not related to me. But I'd be way safer there, and people would actually care about my safety, and not just my sister. I'm surprised that the therapist has seen how she is with your parents and is requesting that you have therapy with her. This makes it seem like the therapist is a freaking moron. I understand a therapist's goal is to help their patient, but I would think they would also consider the effect on other people. Or maybe it's your parents who are requesting it? It could be just them. I don't speak to any of the people where my sister is, so my parents could be lying. And it wouldn't be unlike them, honestly. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law that breastfeeding is not about her journey, but about her starving baby? So I've published the first part of this story before on breastfeeding and mommy subreddits, and I've been made to feel like a monster because mother knows best. For the record, we are in Europe. I'm sorry for my English, and also I'm extremely emotional. My sister-in-law Julia gave birth to little Amanda 11 weeks ago. From the beginning, Amanda was barely growing, mostly losing weight instead of gaining. My country is heavily pro-breastfeeding, and Julia decided that she wanted to breastfeed. However, Amanda wasn't gaining weight properly and landed in the 0.1 percentile for weight. Julia forbade me and my mom from coming to visit them. She said we would poison her if we brought her food. It was surprising, especially since before she gave birth, we were good friends. So we only saw little Amanda in pictures and videos my brother had been sending to us. Only once my mom said she was worried because Amanda looked hungry. She was crying and writhing, pushing her fists into her mouth, while Julia narrated in the video that this is how a happy baby looks with a full belly. So my mom asked if Julia could give her a bottle because Amanda still seemed hungry. Julia went berserk and cut us off completely. She was pumping, but her supply didn't go up at all. Amanda had a tongue tie resolved, but it didn't help much. Julia was using donor milk to top up Amanda's feeds through a sonde. I don't know what this thing is called. Now, every week they've been visiting a doctor's office for a controlled checkup of the weight. This is where it gets really messy. They were there yesterday, and yesterday, my brother called us crying that Amanda is in the hospital. The story went like this. As always, Julia asked my brother to bring her coffee before the weighing appointment while she was using the nursing room to change Amanda's nappy. As always, he did. Except this time, a nurse went in during it to ask Julia about some paperwork, and the nurse saw that Julia was feeding Amanda from a bottle right before the checkup. The bottle had 150 cc of milk, and it was already half gone. The nurse said that Julia was supposed to wait with feeding until after the checkup, and then my brother came in. He got very mad. He said that Julia refused to give Amanda bottles, so what the heck was going on? Then he took the bottle, and at the same time Amanda vomited a very, very thick milk. The nurse went crazy, checked the bottle, and saw it was filled with milk mixed with rice cereal. The doctor who was called immediately ordered Amanda to be moved to the hospital for an emergency checkup, especially after seeing Julia, who went berserk and started throwing things around and yelling that she would feed her baby however and whenever she wanted. We went to the hospital to see my brother. Amanda already had her blood tests done, and they showed some problems with kidneys, liver, vitamin levels, and iron. The doctor said she had been starving for a long time and asked why nobody from our family reacted. We told them the story about Julia claiming that we would poison her. So the doctors immediately took Julia for a psych evaluation for PPD, but turns out she was faking it. She admitted to the doctor, super scared that someone might take the baby from her, that her friend told her if she faked PPD, we would leave her alone and she'd have peace of mind during breastfeeding. The doctors told her that what she did was not okay, and that she was regularly stuffing the baby with milk and cereal before the weight checkups to pretend Amanda had grown. They told her she should just give Amanda bottles with formula, because this is about the little girl's life and survival, as she is now failure to thrive, and her life and health are in danger. Julia got very mad. She yelled that she would either breastfeed Amanda or not feed her at all, and that the choice was only hers because this is her baby and nobody else's. That's when the doctors told Julia that either she would go for another psych evaluation or they would call the police. Julia agreed to the evaluation and they locked her in for a week. My brother is working 14 hours per day because they are poor, and after their wedding, Julia decided she wanted to be a traditional wife and he has to earn their living. So my brother said that whatever Julia was doing must be right. But after seeing what was happening, he got super mad. He said she starved Amanda on purpose for her own sick satisfaction, even though he was working hard to provide money so they could buy formula if needed. He said he wanted a divorce and full custody of Amanda. We don't know if he will get it, because it's rare for dads to take custody of daughters. Also, the doctors are mad at him for not noticing what Julia was doing. Before Julia went to the ward, I got angry and told her that she made monsters out of us and that we were just worried about her and Amanda, and that this whole situation was always only about Julia and her breastfeeding journey and not about Amanda's life. She called me a bitch and said I should have died in childhood because nobody can love an autistic person like me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Julia is very mentally ill and was willing to end her baby to maintain some weird illusion. The doctors say she may have schizophrenia or some kind of psychosis or very dangerous mania. But if after the evaluation they find out nothing, she probably won't get Amanda back. Not the a-hole, obviously. Regardless of what Julia's diagnosis is, she is not safe to parent poor little Amanda. Obviously, the infant's needs come first, regardless of what journey a parent wants to make. Based on my work with abused and neglected children, the idea that mommy knows best is sadly very wrong in many cases, and fatally so in some. This is heartbreaking to read. Your niece's health should always come before your sister-in-law's pride or desire to exclusively breastfeed. It sounds like the doctors are finally stepping in, which is good, but your brother really needs to wake up and advocate for Amanda before things get worse. He admits he made a lot of mistakes. He said he always trusted Julia and wanted the best for her and Amanda. He says he hates himself for what happened. My mom said we'll help him financially as much as we can. I also hope Julia will be okay. I really liked her before everything that happened, and she was always kind to me and was never bothered that I'm autistic. But mostly I pray for Amanda.